I think with this movie, Todd Phillips is the one who got the last laugh. Here are my immediate thoughts on Joker Folie Deux. Hey everyone, this is Lenny here. So I just got out of Joker Folie Deux. This is the new Joker sequel of the successful 2019 film Joker that was written and directed by Todd Phillips. He is returning as writer and director of this film as well. Also returning is Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck, also known as Joker. And I saw this in IMAX, and let me just say, this was an interesting experience. 2024 is becoming the year of the strange, polarizing movie, and Joker Folie Deux is no exception. This was a wild, crazy ride that I'm still trying to figure out what I watched, and I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it. So let's just get to the main plot. So this takes place a couple years after the events of Joker. Arthur Fleck is in Arkham. He's awaiting trial for the murder of 5 people, even though he did murder 6 people in Joker 2019. And if he's found guilty for all these murders, he's facing the death penalty. So, this trial is a big deal in Gotham. They're calling it the trial of the century because of the infamy that it's brought Arthur Fleck. There's, 2 sides to what's going on in Gotham. There's obviously those that are totally against everything that Arthur Fleck did, but then there is a segment of Gotham that is really for Arthur and sees him as their champion in regards to anarchy and burning Gotham down. And Arthur Fleck sort of represents that for them. So this movie is sort of, I would say, an amalgamation of a few things. So Natural Born Killers, Moulin Rouge, La La Land, a little bit of Sweeney Todd, mixed that all together. And then you throw a lot of the Batman mythos in there. And yeah, you sort of get Joker Folie Deux. So Joaquin Phoenix, obviously, like I said, returns as Arthur Fleck, and he's having a hard time. When the movie begins, he has not laughed for a while. He has a lawyer played by Catherine Keener who wants him to stand trial by way of, saying that he's mentally ill and that he has a split personality, that there's Arthur Fleck and that there's Joker. And that was triggered and spawned by his abusive relationship with his mother and, everything that happened when he was a child. And so that's all part of the main plot, trying to figure out if, Joker and Arthur Fleck are indeed 2 separate people. And it's actually pretty funny. This movie started with a Warner Brothers cartoon. So like an old, Looney Tunes, Bug Bunny type of cartoon that sort of gives us an idea of what this movie is sort of about. It's about Joker and his shadow and the conflict between the 2 of them. And that's sort of what this movie is trying to say, in terms of whether or not Arthur Fleck and Joker are really these split personalities or if they are one in the same. And Arthur is at Arkham, and Brendan Gleeson is there as a guard. And at one point, and this is really crazy because the security at Arkham is sort of touch and go. There are times where it's like, yeah, Arthur is all shackled up as he should be as someone who has murdered 5, really 6 people, and is going on trial for the death penalty. And then there are other times where it seems like he's sort of just kind of free to roam and do whatever he wants. I know there's a little bit of play that Todd Phillips is doing in terms of fantasy and reality, but there are times where in the reality sequences where things are happening that I'm not sure security-wise would be happening. I guess there's a little bit of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest as well, in terms of how there's the relationship between patients and guards, or I guess the criminals and the guards as well. And this lax insecurity is where we actually get into Lady Gaga as Harley Quinzel, or Lee Quinzel. And she is someone there, she says she's a psychopath. And what happens is that Brendan Gleeson's character somehow convinces Arkham that Arthur can go to this kind of sing along therapy group. And this is where the musical aspect of the film comes in, because the director of this musical therapy group talks about how music can be used to help repair some of the fractures in people's lives. And this is where Fleck and Harley Quinn kind of meet, and they have their meet cute and everything like that. There's this whole thing that happens where, Harley Quinn is, she falls in love with Arthur Fleck, or with Joker, and the relationship kind of develops, and this is where the musical builds. And Todd Phillips is playing with reality here. A lot of the musical sequences are sort of done like the old school, like MGM musicals, these big sprawling sets. There's one fantasy segment that's sort of a play on like Sonny and Cher. And Lady Gaga can sing, Joaquin Phoenix cannot. But at times it works between the two of them. And Joaquin Phoenix does bring the goods to Arthur Fleck. I mean, he won an Oscar, playing this role in 2019. So, he still brings us all to the role. But I'm going to be straight up with you guys. This movie was just a really weird sit. So you have a few plots going on. So you have the love plot between Arthur Fleck and Harley Quinn. So that's one thing going on. You have the courtroom drama of Arthur Fleck and the trial of the murders. You have the musical aspect of the movie that pops in every once in a while. And then you have this whole other sort of existential plot about mental illness and identity, and Arthur Fleck's sort of existential crisis, kind of trying to handle all of that. And he's spinning all of these plates. There's all this cult of personality around him. He's popular, he's infamous, he has this cult following that sees what he did as sort of justice in a decaying city. And but then you have these musical numbers that pop in, and some of the musical numbers seem to make sense in terms of the content and the songs and what they're singing about. And these are all jukebox musicals. None of these songs are new songs. These are, the song, the Great American Songbook is what they were calling. These are songs from like Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald. The Come On, Get Happy, That's Entertainment. Those old school type of songs are used. So if you are like younger, if you're, I guess, Gen Z or whatever, there's some of these songs you're probably not going to know unless you are like a major movie fan and you're big into movie musicals. And I'll say for the most part, Todd Phillips, utilizes a lot of the music well. There are times where, some of these musical sequences come and they just don't make sense, because it's just like an added piece of fantasy. And Todd Phillips is trying to make a case about how people can latch on to fantastical elements when they have a certain mental illness, and how that can drive them to do certain things and the consequences. And it almost feels like that Todd Phillips is, I don't want to say he's apologizing for Joker, but this definitely feels like a troll job. It feels like Joker made all of this money. He made $1 billion. And this was supposed to be a standalone movie at first. And the movie ended like it was a standalone movie. But Warner Brothers obviously was like, hey, this movie made $1 billion. You better make a sequel. So Todd Phillips came up with this movie. And then, we all heard about that there was going to be a musical. And even I was like, this is going to be crazy. And yeah, it is as crazy as I think everyone sort of feared. For me, it just did not work. It was very uneven. Lady Gaga was okay, but this was definitely a case of stunt casting. She was cast because she can sing, and because this movie was going to, a good chunk of it was going to be a musical. So that's sort of her purpose here, to be there to sing and to sort of be crazy. And we see a little bit of that with Harley Quinn, but we don't really get into the full aspect of it. And I'll say this, that Joker Folie Deux is sort of a origin story without being an origin story. And really, that's all I'm going to say. Because the last act of this movie is what's going to split people down the middle. It gets into the courtroom drama and the consequences of that, and then there's a couple final scenes that when they happen, I was like, wow, we really went there. And that was the moment that I said, Todd Phillips is trolling the audience here. And it's crazy because the film is spectacularly shot. I mean, this is definitely an IMAX movie. It is lit well. The sound design is great. You know, there are some great sweeping Steadicam shots. So construction wise, you could tell that Todd Phillips was trying. But in terms of the actual story, it was almost like, yeah, I mean, they gave me a bunch of money and we really don't have a whole lot to do with Joker. I really told the story that I wanted to tell in the first movie. So let's just fucking do whatever the fuck we want. And Joaquin Phoenix was like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, Catherine Keener comes in. She's Arthur Fleck's lawyer, but Fleck fires her and decides that he's going to defend himself. That's not a spoiler. That's actually in the trailers. And but yeah, it's just weird. The courtroom scenes are strange. Oh yeah, Harvey Dent's in this, and there's something crazy that happens with him. And there's a couple of cameos from the last Joker movie. There's one scene with one particular character from the last movie that I don't know if they played it, if it was supposed to be played for laughs, but this person, like, walking to the stand and walking away from the stand just took way longer than it needed to. It just felt like padding for the sake of padding, almost comedically so, because it just felt so off. And there were a lot of just little moments like that in the movie that I was just watching, and I'm just like, it almost felt like a Frankenstein of a lot of movies that I said. And like I said, it's constructed well, but when you sit down and think about it, it just doesn't work. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And like I said, the movie's trying to say stuff about mental illness, identity, hero worship, and all that stuff. And there's a lot of different themes, and it just doesn't all come together. And that's really a shame, because I was looking forward to this movie. This was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. But yeah, like I said, this was lit great. You get a lot of the same, lighting techniques and styles from the first Joker. There's a little bit difference with, with Todd Phillips playing up the musical aspect. So he gets to play a little bit more with color than he did in the last movie, because that was, a major homage to, 1970s filmmaking. So that movie was a lot more grittier, and you still get a lot of that there. But, with Todd Phillips doing the musical part of it, he does get to play a little bit more with kind of the technicolor aspects of the movie musical. Oh, one other thing, there was so much cigarette smoking in this movie that literally there was a moment where Joker signs or autographs a book, I hope you get cancer. And I'm like, yeah, there's that much smoking in this movie. But yeah, I mean, if I was going to give a rating to this movie, honestly, and I hate to say this, I'm gonna have to give this a flop. I mean, it just isn't good. It's not what I expected. This is going to be interesting to go back and watch. It is a fascinating watch because, like I said, in terms of how it's put together, there's a lot of great set pieces. There's a lot of great scene work, but it just doesn't come together. It doesn't equal to the sum of all of its parts. A lot of individual things work, but it's just individual parts. But when you try to fit them together, it just doesn't mesh. But yeah, this is going to be a fascinating watch to go back and look at again. It just was a weird sit, and I have a feeling that there are going to be some fans, super fans of the first Joker, that are going to walk out of this movie pissed. pissed. And I'm going to say, I don't blame you. There are going to be some fans of the first movie that are going to walk out being like, yeah, that was actually a brilliant take on someone having an existential crisis of mental illness. And I can see where you may have that opinion. But this movie was all over the place for me. I'm really interested in seeing what the audience reaction is going to be. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, those are my immediate thoughts and feelings on Joker Folie Deux. What did you guys think of the movie? Share your thoughts, leave your comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you can get notifications as well. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.